this is Ben from the Railroad Yard and Hubcap Hobbies, and today we're going to go on an adventure across the great state of Maine to ride the two-footers. Our first stop is going to be right here at Boothbay Railroad Village in Boothbay Harbor. Now, for those of you unfamiliar with the term two-footers, it refers to the gauge of the track being 2 feet apart. It's considered narrow gauge as the standard U.S. track is 4 feet, 8.5 inches in width. So this is obviously less than half of that. The steam locomotive that they operate is from Germany, and while I can't confirm it, it looks like the model of locomotive that the LGB stands is based on. While the locomotive was imported from Germany, the 2-foot gauge railroads were unique to the state of Maine. Narrow gauge railroads were less expensive to build. It doesn't require as much space, and tracks could even be laid temporarily, removed, and then set up again elsewhere. This ability proved to be very successful for Maine's logging industry. 2-foot gauge railroads made it possible to connect many of Maine's very small rural communities that otherwise wouldn't have had rail service. The museum's main focus is on narrow gauge history, but there are some exhibits and artifacts that help document the history of Maine's other railroads. The structure that the train is passing right now was once a yard tower on the Maine Central Railroad. Now, a few of you on here may have seen one of these before. It's one of 48 French boxcars that were given to the United States in appreciation for support during the Second World War. The museum also features an antique automobile museum. They have a pretty impressive collection of early vehicles, including a Stanley steamer, which is actually powered by steam, but the real crown jewel of their collection is this Rolls-Royce Silver Cloud II. I got to talk with the curator for a little bit, and he told me that this car runs very well and that he occasionally drives it around. And no railway museum would be complete without a model train exhibit, and this museum is no exception. This HO layout is modeled after none other than the state of Maine. It features a lot of iconic Maine sites, including a working lighthouse, billboards for Moxie, and even a miniature Moody's diner. After Boothbay Railroad Village, it was off to Portland. to see the Maine Narrow Gauge Museum. The excursion train was powered by Maine Narrow Gauge Number 1, a very narrow 23-ton locomotive built by General Electric. The locomotive was built in 1949 and originally was used by the Whitten Machine Works Company in Northbridge, Massachusetts. Machine Works Company used it to transport materials to manufacture textile equipment. We boarded the train, and we were lucky enough to get to ride in the caboose. Caboose number 553 originally ran on the Sandy River and Rangeley Lakes Railroad. It's nearly 120 years old, but was well restored and is immaculately kept. As we rode the rails, we had a great view of Portland's Casco Bay area. The weather was great too, as we had a perfect Maine summer day. The train travels 1.5 miles before stopping at the end of the line. At the end of the line, you can catch a glimpse of the old swing bridge that used to be used by the Grand Trunk Railroad. The bridge was designed to rotate into an open position to allow boats to pass through when it wasn't being used for rail traffic. I remember passing by this bridge for years on my way to Portland and always wanted to catch it in action, but based on the information I could find online, it's been abandoned since the mid-80s. The tracks that the Maine Narrow Gauge uses were originally standard gauge. However, the museum re-gauged them to accommodate the two-footers. Looking closely at these ties, you can tell they're twice as long as they need to be. On the ride back, we even got to ride in the top cupola of the caboose, giving us a really interesting view. Although the ride is fairly short, it's also worth walking the trail that runs alongside the tracks, as you can check out some of the museum's other equipment and get some really nice photos and video of the train in action. There's a small beach area towards the end of the trail, and if you go during the summer, you might catch a glimpse of some pretty fancy yachts. So that's the Maine Narrow Gauge Museum. The trains start running in the spring and go to early November. Around the holidays, they also do a special Polar Express train. So much of Maine's history is connected to railroading, and it's great that the state has quite a few museums dedicated to preserving that history. Unfortunately, on this trip, we didn't make it to the Wiscasset, Waterville, and Farmington Railway Museum, which is also dedicated to preserving Maine's narrow gauge railways. However, that'll probably be a future video, so be sure to subscribe and check out some of my other railroad adventures. Thanks for watching.